Welcome, friends, fans, and fellow adventurers. Your Rolling with Advantage has landed you here at D4&After, where we discuss the most recent episodes of the hit Twitch D&D show D4. I am your host, Ross Lee, and tonight I am joined by the amazing Ray Berry, who plays the lovable, accident-prone Petunia Potts, and our beloved co-DMs, Dustin and Devin. And also myself? Yeah, that's right. I am a guest tonight as well as a co-host, because I'm talking about a recent character I played, Jacob Ashdown, in the recent canon one-shot episode Lucky Catch. Dustin will be helping share the hosting duties this evening, so it'll be a little different than usual. Bear with us. This episode will contain spoilers for the most recent show, for the most recent one-shot Lucky Catch, and potentially for D4 at large in general. You have been warned. A couple announcements and things to get through. Apologies that there was no episode last week. We had some schedule conflicts. We were going to try to get some time with Jason. Schedules didn't end up aligning. So we're working on getting that together, and we'll hopefully have that posted as soon as we can. Another apologies. I know some of you have probably submitted questions in the Discord for this episode. This episode was actually pre-recorded after we pre-recorded the one-shot. So apologies, your questions may not be featured this evening. If we don't get to your questions in a normal episode, you would tag us in Discord. So please take this opportunity to tag us in the Discord, and when we're by, we'll answer them as soon as we're able to. The show schedule, we're still airing on Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And yeah, I think that's it. This episode will be airing while our beloved cast and DMs are on a boat. So hopefully they are enjoying their time. Huh?
I'm sure. I hope future us are enjoying their time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I do too. I hope it's enjoyment. I'm pretty sure it will be.
Not hope, you will. You will enjoy your time.
The only thing I want to add to the announcements is that if you miss these for any reason, you can catch the VOD on our Patreon.
That is absolutely true. You can indeed, and the link is right there on the bottom, right below me, right here.
Somewhere down there.
Somewhere down there. Yep.
Somewhere down there in the ether of the internets.
Yeah.
Somewhere down at Petunia's eye level.
I am extremely
that's probably about right.
Yeah,
to talk about this one shot.
Yes.
There's so much going on. So much.
I mean, buddy cop adventure.
Yeah! That's why you're excited.
Everything went fine. It went great.
It went so fine.
Perfectly.
So well. So good. So many things to talk about. So many places to start. I want to thank you all for letting me be on the show. It was a lot of fun. Ray, it was great playing alongside you.
It was great.
Ray, for some of our newer viewers, why don't you tell us a little bit about Petunia and that character and how she's connected with the BFGs to kind of get them up to speed, as it were.
Sure. So Petunia is a halfling diviner wizard, if that wasn't obvious by the episode. But she quite literally tripped into the BFGs quite early on in their adventures, around the time when they were encountering a particularly haggard enemy. She is a very clumsy halfling for the amount of dexterity she has. She seems to have a lot of luck, whether that be bad or good for her or others. No one's quite sure, but somehow things just tend to work out for her, even if she means to or not. But she's always meaning well, and she also, let's see, what else? And she and Harold Hobbleton are quite the pair right now. And she is waiting very anxiously for him to return. More so than before.
More so than before, for sure.
As are others.
Yeah. sips.
So many people waiting. How was it playing in person again? I mean, that was, I think, probably the first time in what, 2 years? Playing with Dustin and Devin?
Yeah, it was a long time. I ever been in this? Yes, I had been in the new studio, but it was a hot minute ago. It was really nice. There was definitely a different air to it. Like it's, getting to see the people you've loved for, years even before D4 is just great within itself, but it's also nice being at the table, especially when I was next to you and we were in sync. Regardless of the ending, we were in sync and it was awesome.
And I mean, I'm going to feed off of that because you both rolled the same totals a couple of different times. Like, obviously that wasn't planned.
Count.
And I mean, it was just, I think after like the third or fourth time, it was just like, what? It happened again? Did that kind of feed off of you, like kind of using that moment to play off of each other? How you guys played?
Yeah, I would say so. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
I feel like every time we got the same roll, I remember the first few times it was like, oh my God. And then the second, like the next couple times I would wait to hear your answer and be like, I wonder. And then you would say it, because I remember one of them was a 19. And I would be like, oh my gosh. It just made us more excited. And it made us
really
more excited to be a team.
To me, it was like, oh man, my character and hers are like on the same page on everything. It's like we're seeing the same things at the same time, like hold on yards. Yeah. So
it was great. It was like they'd worked together for a while or something,
Totally.
It really sold that buddy cop feeling, that buddy cop genre that you get with those various TV shows or movies.
Yeah.
Like it just the antics and the like little bit of slapstick, but with like the serious intenseness. To me that just helped sell that genre of that what the one shot was portraying.
Oh yeah, there was a mix of lighthearted and seriousness, I would say.
Oh yeah. I feel like that there were definitely, especially with the story that you guys presented to us, there had to be serious moments. Like,
oh my God, yeah.
Oh yeah, the things that we were investigating. It's like, yeah, you could have lighthearted moments around those. Actually, about those, not so much,
I kind of wonder what the cringe count was on that one, because y'all, I'm sure when I go back and watch it, you can see me going, oh, like several times just because of the descriptions.
And that actually, so because of that, the very first part of the story, I mean, we got into some pretty gruesome murders. And, like you said, there was a lot of cringe factors, but, you or Petunia and Jacob Ashton or Ash as he liked to be called had worked a couple of those kind of cases together, but it seemed like it was a lot lighter, like with the fabric thief or the purse thief, I think there was. How did this particular case challenge Petunia in that instance?
I would say, since we're going off of the previous cases being things like stolen pets and counterfeit bags of holding, go on to a full-blown, murder, gruesome murder. I think it was more impactful for her because it would have been the first time without the BFGs. Now she's seen some pretty gruesome things, but she's had that group there with her. She's had her friends with her. But this one, she probably she eventually, I imagine, considered Ash a friend at this point, but it's a little different when it's only one who is kind of on a more professional level versus, Harold, Finley, Seisha. I mean, even Voss at the end of it had gained a surprising amount of respect for Petunia over Glitter, if I remember correctly. But
it's useful.
Yep.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, so it was a challenge, certainly a challenge for her, being like, oh, I've got to swim now, as in a manner of speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like for Ash, it was definitely like, he had done those cases before, maybe not necessarily to that gruesome of detail. So bringing her into that, I'm sure he felt bad a little bit, um, at least from the Ash side of the character, I would
I was
say.
gonna say.
So
You sold it.
oh, that's good. That's good. I'm glad I was able to help sell that. So, question for the DMs. I want to pivot and ask you guys, like, obviously designing a mystery is something that is a challenge in its own right. Designing one and telling a story that is collaborative with two players who are supposed to pick up on the clues, like that's a whole nother level of challenge for you guys. Like, how do you guys go about that, and how did you think it worked this time?
So typically we write 50-50, but the way that this had to work because we were going on a cruise, I was busy working on
133.
Well, yeah, 133. And Dustin is a fan. I am not really a fan of cop shows. Like, buddy cop movies are pretty good and funny, but like cop shows are just not my jam. And that was really the feel that we needed to have. And Dustin loves them. So I kind of just...
I do.
I let him kind of take control of it. And and he'd go over some things like, this is what I'm thinking, blah, blah, blah. And so like a lot of like the meat and potatoes of it, I had a hand in kind of orchestrating that. But he made all of the details and nitty gritty stuff that we had to work in there.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to lay out the, the threads, if you will of the like conspiracy type, and I basically wrote it like I was, a victimology. Like I was literally working the case. What would I need to see if I was in that show, and I basically went that way. What are these clues? What beats do we hit? What would they find if they're looking? And then how do we tie that to a bigger story? And then how do we tie that to an even bigger story?
Yeah, because without saying anything about it, there's something that was said at the end that kind of reveals that this played into a bigger hand of something that could have been going on that you guys didn't discover. I'll say.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can't go into too much about that because that story isn't done yet.
That's why I tried to word it in a way, and that really that really came about because we had to think about the characters involved, how they work with other people, and then what they would use to their advantage, and we had to come up with a story as to why it narratively makes sense that will be figured out later on. So once we got into it and we figured out that it was like, okay, we know that we want the red herring to be Drow. And so we subtly kept putting in those hints like, the body in the webbing or the web of the red string, which was 100% a little nod to Rey with the red strings of fate. That was utilized there. Yep. You're welcome.
That's great.
And then every like subtle details, and even the throwback to the Crawling Spider Tavern, which was in session 45 or 46. When they were looking for Lanky Boy, they just, one of the clues led them there for a small scene. And so to be able to kind of call back to that and have it be destroyed, and it just kept, kind of throwing into that. The dancer's name was Lilith, which is a play on Loth. And so, yeah, it was a lot of fun to really get into those shoes and put all of those little breadcrumbs that led to that.
Did you have to adjust anything for us while we played?
The hardest, there were a couple of things. It was more so, like he said, there was the first 2 scenes that were kind of blocked out, and then we didn't know where you guys were going to go, so there was like a list of clues, and it was just however you want to interject said clue, that's how we get to it.
And a lot of how I like to tell stories and storytell is to feed off of... I'm a reactionary storyteller. And so there was definitely a couple times where you may have seen and noticed that I kind of took the lead in a lot of the narrative stuff on this go round. And that's just, I would think, I'd be like, okay, you guys just did something that sparked an idea. I'm going to yes and Devin real quick so that he knows which direction to go so that he can follow off of me.
Yeah. But nice. it all came back down to like, here are the clues. And as long as we hit those clue beats, that works.
Yep.
So, because you
you guys did really good. Like you both got it after it took until about the second body, but as soon as that second body hit, you were just like both of you were just like, oh, I know where this is going.
I'm gonna be honest. When the first body came up, and I don't know if I could say for sure if Petunia would have picked up on it. Her wisdom's a little bit lower than mine is. I think. But when you mentioned the webbing, I'm like, okay, spider, drow. I bet this is going to be a drow, and I wonder if they're taking the bait for something. Like that's where my brain went because it seems like culturally the drow historically are like always seem to be the scapegoat for a lot of things. In my small experience in D&D stories.
The Drow are a very rich culture because there's so many, but a heavy influence in the Drow culture is
Minzo Branson.
Minzo Branson is where all of like the hoity-toity high society of nobles and the hoity-toity high society nobles all worship a demon. So a lot of them aren't good.
Matriarchal society, and it just
kind of an earned reputation.
And so, but I mean, there was even clues like in the name of the shop that was used, which was the Arrowbringer, which is another name for one of the elven deities, who is literally the demigod of
hating drow. Yeah.
And so.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess we probably would have gotten more on that if we'd rolled a little bit better.
Yep.
Because I don't remember that being mentioned, just that it was an elvish deity.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Fun little facts, because we're such a lore-heavy show and dove so deep into Forgotten Realms lore. The war between elves and drow all comes from a divorce.
Yep.
That's funny.
Yep.
That is funny.
Corellin was originally married to Lolth. I forget her original elven name, but there was a spat, and their divorce caused the curse and all of this hatred.
Yep.
Mom and Dad are fighting again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
It's always over love, or lack thereof.
It is crazy how much you guys know about Forgotten Realms and how you weave it into even the one-shots that you do with the canon one-shots that you do and the story in general. I'm constantly amazed by that. So I feel like we've got to talk about the end to kind of talk about a little bit more of the rest of the show. So Ray, at the end, the reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Was there ever any point in the adventure that Petunia had doubts about Ash in general? And if so, what would those doubts have been?
That's a really good question. Because I didn't pick up on the festivals and carnivals line. I was thrown off by it, but I didn't know what you meant, and I didn't have my brain did not work quickly enough to go, huh? What does that mean? And I just kind of like let it go and moved on. I honestly don't think Petunia suspected anything, genuinely, because I mean she'd done. I know she had done some sort of. I believe she'd done locate creature on the Harlequin last time I was playing with with you guys, and of course, nothing came up because it's only 1,000 feet. Like that's pretty reasonable. But also, I mean, she sees the good in people, and so obviously this guy played a really long game in protecting her family and continuing to protect her family. And
in perspective, this is actually a short game for him.
It's a pretty short game for him.
Yeah, it is. In retrospect, it is a very short game. He's like, this is a walk in the park.
But in hindsight, it is a long game because he had to build up that reputation. He was a lieutenant. So
I mean short game in the sense of like, for others it was years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy. I can't. It's got to be a fucking changeling or something. I don't know. I'm so baffled by that little bastard.
So I don't know anything about the Harley Quinn other than
Oh, he said the name. Oh God. Oh, he said the name. No.
I did. I
We
said the
said
name.
spoilers.
It very much spoiled.
We said spoilers. Fair warning, folks. So it's revealed that my character is actually the Harley Quinn.
Yep.
And in my perspective, and Devin and Dustin, I would love your thoughts here. I played Ash as though he is a personality fragment of the Harley Quinn, almost like the Harley Quinn has created him, enclosed him, kept him off from himself in order to get close to Petunia for the right moment. That's how I interpreted Ash in his actions to get there. And I don't know, maybe there is a real Jacob Ashton that the Harley Quinn killed to get in and infiltrate. I don't know what are your guys?
It's entirely possible.
Are there any things that the DMs can kind of tip the hand here, or is that just that sounds good to us? Like,
let's see. So there's a class. I'll say this. There's a class in 5th edition that is so underutilized, or a campaign has to be perfectly constructed in order for a player to play this class correctly.
I think I know which one it is.
Subclass. Yeah, subclass. And that is the assassin. Assassin will never work in a wilderness campaign.
Nope.
However, in an urban campaign, the world is your oyster, because all you need is a week to literally create an entire
identity backstory.
And as long as you have certain feats and certain skills, you can look, sound like anyone.
That's
and
insane.
So someone that has trained themselves to be a perfect actor,
Yep.
Method acting.
Doesn't even.
Yep.
This is why method acting is bad.
Doesn't even realize he's method acting.
Goodness gracious.
There's more to it because he's obviously an NPC. You were using a completely different rogue subclass as the Inquisitor, which is not allowed, and things like that. But because he's an NPC and can create perfect
mimicry of things,
of characters and things like that, that's why we were able to let you have fun and create whatever character you wanted.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I actually have a question for all three of you. So when you were making Jacob, did they tell you to just make a character and then tell you who you were playing afterwards, or what was the process? I'm really curious.
So they Dustin gave me a call one day. It was like, "Hey, I have a potential favor to ask," and I was like, "Yeah, sure. What's up?" And he's like, "How would you like to be on the show?" I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great." And he's like, "I need you to play the Harley Quinn." I was like, my radar immediately went, "They're not just gonna let me hand the character. There's something going on here." And Dustin was like, "Yeah, it's going to be a buddy cop adventure, and you're going to be able to play a character, an NPC that we create, come up with the persona, everything else, and just have fun with it. And at some point, we're going to send you a note, and you just need to do what's on the note." And I'm like, "All right, here we go."
I am so so glad I had the wherewithal to recognize the OSS on that note. I'm so glad. I almost opened that note and would have felt so bad. There were 2 of them. And then I saw Ross and was like, no, bad Ray.
I think the first one you opened, which wasn't...
I like began to open it, but then was like, wait.
Yeah.
Like visual processing was still loading.
And if I remember correctly, that wasn't a damning note. However, the second
the first one was just... Yeah.
That one I knew to just...
Yeah. The first one was just them telling me why I was there, because we had forgotten to talk about that before play.
So,
yeah.
But to feed off of the what did Ross know and things like that, Dustin originally approached me and said, hey, what if you play this character? And I was like, that is too telling.
Yeah.
That on an out-of-play level, if Ray at any moment... Because I know you talked to us and said, I had a strong feeling that the Harley Quinn was going to show up. But if I was sitting at the table, you would have said, I have a strong feeling the Harley Quinn is going to show up, and I know it's your character. So having Ross step in and playing the alter ego at least caused that separation.
Yep. That was incredibly smart. Because honestly, hindsight's 2020, because I feel like I had an inkling that it might have been Ash, but I feel like I was more inclined to believe that Jacob would have gotten offed or something, because he was probably I imagine he would have been a short-lived character, and because Dustin likes to make me cry.
Yeah, I do.
He does.
But in the most loving way.
In the most loving way. But honestly, that was probably one of the best decisions y'all would have made, was having Ross do it, because he sold it. I had it. I that thought completely went out of my mind, and I just got into the game.
And it was so good. He was such a fun character. There was a moment.
Yeah, thanks.
There was a moment where you were talking to Gnarl, and he looks back, and he's like miming bugs and picking his nose. Just 100% selling the buffoon, unassuming cop. And I was just like, this is so good. This is so good.
Fine. He'll be fine. I've got protection.
Petunia's over here literally begging for us to sign her death warrant, using halfling Lux and regular Lux and things like that to make Gnarl go away. And we're like, okay.
I want acknowledged, damn it. I was...
It's why I love Dungeons & Dragons so much. Because, you can't write
you can't.
that.
Yeah.
And it just, everything played out so perfectly.
And I will say that was a big issue when we were trying to come up with this episode. We're like, we can't force Gnarl away because he is her shadow. It's what he's there to do. We can't.
He was there because of player agency, and we didn't want to we would not and will not ever take away player agency.
So we were like, what do we do?
So I took it away for him. Sorry, Ethan.
And it's one of the reasons why we came up with the scapegoat that we came up with, because it would involve him, and it would come down to that conversation exactly as it happened. If Petunia makes the choice.
Yep.
So you would have had Gnarl in that fight at the end if if you did not
send him away. Yep.
Because whether you knew it or not, he was always there.
Always on your tail.
So if you would have had Gnarl at the end, the secondary plan was, even if the ruse was, made known and he didn't get you, at least the secondary plan was for the Harlequin to get out.
Yeah.
And that at least, because the point is to get Harold's attention.
Of course.
Yeah.
And this is the best way to do it.
Yep.
Yeah. And there are so many things that happen in that last moment during the reveal. There's one that I want to hit on just before the reveal happens. Petunia uses Mind Spike. It was Mind Spike, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah, it was my spike.
on the Drow priestess and drops her.
Yes.
Like, that's a big moment for Petunia. What was in Petunia's mind, like that was her first time killing anyone, right?
Yes, it was Petunia's first time killing any like sapient individual, I believe. To my memory, it was, because I think they're all, the rest of them are like fish and monsters and demons.
Yeah.
And the way it played out was I had run out of level 3 mind spikes, so it was just a level 4. So like flavor wise, it's just like the heat of this battle and the threat of her companion, and you know, about to take on this terrifying woman. It was just, you kind of played it out as almost like a gut reaction, like, oh my God, no. And then, oh my God, she's dead. I thought we were going to question her. I didn't realize that it would do that much. Oh my God. Because she wouldn't have wanted to kill her. She would have wanted to investigate more and whatnot. So,
If only you guys understood Undercommon.
hey, now I have rituals that I could have.
You could have, but you didn't.
Give me 11 minutes and I could have.
Yeah. Even your third eye had you comprehend languages instead of see in the darkness. But having dark vision as a halfling really good.
Really handy.
I do think it was very interesting how her first kill wasn't with the BFGs. There's something interestingly profound about that, especially considering who Ash actually was.
Yeah. First kill was with the guy who then proceeded to betray her.
Yep.
After having gained her trust.
Yep.
And speaking of betrayal, how hard was it to actually betray Petunia, Russ?
Oh God, it was so hard, right? It was so hard, because so starting out like playing. Okay, when the play started, I was a little nervous because it's like I know who I'm actually playing and everything. But as we got into it more and more, I got more and more into the character of Ash. And so by the end of it, when you were having your moment, and that note came over to me, I knew what was about to happen. And when I read it, I was like, I have to do it. But oh my gosh, this is so hard for the Ash persona right now. I actually almost started crying. Like, and I was like, all right, well, here we go. And so I gave the line. And then I did the thing, and I was just like, I have to live with myself now. Just like you know, any actor or actress or whatever would in that moment. So it was tough, especially after having just gone through our adventure together, and worked on solving so much together.
A really brutal adventure.
Yeah.
Welcome
Definitely
to
one of
D4.
those.
Yeah, for sure. And
trial by fire for sure.
Yeah, and to that note, that line was delivered beautifully, by the way. I can't remember it verbatim. I'm sure everyone else can, or there's a clip.
I can't remember it verbatim either, actually.
I think it was something along the lines of, we have to do what we must, even
when we don't want to, or something along those lines. But,
yeah, it was something.
Oh, it was so good.
And that was in those moments. I was just like, what would Ash say as the Harlequin personality takes over, as he drops the Ash personality and the real self takes over? What would he say? So I worked through that one for a minute, for a quick second, but yeah, it was Oh man, it was so hard. It was so hard to do it.
It was so good. It was so beautiful.
I guess a question that's kind of complicated because it's more of a meta question. But did Ash ever actually care about Petunia?
Ooh. See, the way I played it, yes. Ash definitely cared about Petunia. He was, in essence, in his mind, he was raising another investigator, someone to, while she's on Force Gray, to be an asset for the city that he loves. So, in my mind, Ash cared deeply for Petunia, and so that made that moment all the harder when it came time, because it was like, Potts, here we go. Like,
yeah. And earlier you said something along the lines of like Ash, the way you created him and the way you thought about how this character would be created. Is that a small aspect of the Harlequin as like a small little branch? Is all players, typically put a little bit of themselves into the PCs they create, and if there was a small part of the Harlequin that did care about Petunia, it would be more so about like he cares about what means she will bring.
The tool.
So like, yeah. So like, there is a strong emotional tie there, and to manipulate that into actually caring is fun.
Mm-hmm. It's so fun. So fun.
It makes me even more curious as to why the Harlequin is so hell-bent on specifically Harold. Because I don't think there's really been an established motive other than he's just evil. That's the only explanation people have come up with, unless I missed an episode or something, or missing lore. There's a lot of things to go through and a lot of data to remember.
Those questions may be answered when the showdown happens, because we know it's coming.
I bet.
We know it's coming. That's not a spoiler.
No.
It's definitely coming now.
Long time coming.
Yeah.
And that will be questions answered on another future D4&After.
Or in the show.
Yeah.
Or in the show. But yeah.
The villain's monologue.
But
yeah. How long have you guys as DMs been planning this thread?
This very specific
I'm gonna
I would say specifically the thread about the Harlequin using Petunia to get to Harold. Let me narrow the question a little bit.
I'm gonna broaden it even more. I'm actually gonna broaden it because it has been in the books for 2 years.
Right. So I will give a peek as to why this actually started.
Yeah.
There was a player that was potentially going to have to step away because of business opportunity. And it ended up not happening around that time. And I can't really talk about it because it might still happen. But they were the initial target. Because we were like, this is the perfect way to take them out of the story as they go missing. And then it would be, instead of like this buddy cop that we saw, it would have been the BFGs doing the buddy cop to find all the clues leading up to the episode that they could return.
Yep.
That didn't happen.
Yeah.
So,
it didn't happen. I mean, this was like beginning of 2020. And then the Great Panini happened. Yeah. And so everything, so we're like, all right, well, that's out the window. And then, not in Waterdeep anymore, so that's not going to happen anymore. So how can we, and then, the Petunia and Harold relationship started, and it was like, okay, there it is. Yeah. That's how we do it, and how we bring this story to the next chapter.
Yeah.
And Harold knew it. Harold knew it.
Yeah. By this time, the BFGs know that the Harlequin is still alive. Because for the longest time, it was kind of up in the air. Did he survive or did he not survive? Which was kind of fun to play with.
Yep.
But also, I really love the way that this played out because, one, it gave us this episode, which was awesome. And then, two, it was easier. It's easier to explain why someone he cares about just disappeared from underneath him. If it was the other way, it kind of would have been a little bit forced.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, they just didn't show up. Now you got to figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
Petunia has a route.
Yeah, but Petunia has goes
Strict schedule.
all over the city and outside of the city daily.
Yep.
So vulnerable.
Steps in.
Yep.
Gotta get them stats. That's
Gotta
why.
get her trips in.
That's why she's so stout.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some
There you go.
thighs.
Yep. And power walk thighs.
Power walk.
Or from all the tripping.
That too. Well, she's got plenty
man.
of cushion to land on, so it's okay.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, go.
No, you go.
I was gonna add here a question for you, Ray. As Petunia's consciousness is fading, has the realization what's happened. Were there any other thoughts that ran through Petunia's mind as she's about to black out at the end of the episode?
Probably Harold. Honestly, and in a larger sense, if she, on a more like meta sense, she probably would have had like her first thought would have been sending immediately because that would have been the only thing she could do. And y'all are so fucking lucky that I used that one on that priestess, or else I would have gotten to do that.
That wasn't us.
I know.
That was the brilliance of Ross. So good. So good. He knew, like, we didn't say, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. He was like, we were just like, play it however you want, but just know what the end result is. And so he tried to sneak in as many times to just get you to use your abilities.
Yep.
And it was so well done.
Yeah,
That was a little bit of the Harlequin peeking through Ash there.
Yeah, I pulled out all the stops on my spell. I mean, mainly because I had a lot of new spells that I wanted to have fun using, but
Yeah,
also
totally.
because I mean, in reality, this is your job, and you're gonna see your job through, and eventually you're gonna be able to rest and use them later, and yada yada yada. But
Yeah.
it was it was interesting that normally I do have a couple of like a luck point or two left at the end of it. Although Portent goes pretty quickly. God, that Portent. That one.
Yeah, I would say that one that came in super handy, right? When you
Yeah.
felt that.
Yeah, I mean, like as much as it would have sucked for for the Harlequin to not get his shot off with that one, that was a lot of damage you rolled for her, if I remember correctly. 60 plus with that cat of nine tails,
It was
if I recall.
high.
Because you had rolled damage before. I was like, nope, one. I don't want that. Mm-mm.
Yeah. I want to say it was like 40 something, maybe.
It was a lot. It would have dropped her.
Nine tails.
It would have dropped her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was.
and that would have just made his job easier.
Yeah, it's a nasty item with the poison and.
Yeah, it's rude.
Yeah.
Thank God I'm a halfling. Y'all tried to poison me so many times.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true.
He's
Multiple
probably
times.
having some wonky dreams right now, just tripping.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
So
Go ahead, Dust.
I was gonna say, Devin.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like for you? Because the Harlequin is 100% your NPC. Like you came up with him. He is your brainchild, and all of his creepiness, which I love so much. But what was it like entrusting it to another player?
Well, first of all, The Harlequin is a meta nod to Ethan
Yep.
because he played a Harlequin, but a very different type of Harlequin. They just called themselves Harlequins at the Lark. And I was like, oh, this will be fun if I create his nemesis to be his old self. But the Harlequin is in no way like his old Lark character, just in name only. Yep. And
maybe
fun,
levels of sanity, but like only just a little bit.
But I trust Ross. We definitely had to talk about who could fill that seat because it is an important role and could be done poorly. But the fact, like, we didn't give you any notes to hit. We were just like, come up with a character. Your only requirements are you are a watch member, this is a buddy cop show, and you know what the end's going to be. Yep. And that was it.
That was it.
All of the
quips,
the clues,
all
of the subtle things. That's all Ross.
Yeah.
And it was so good to sit back and watch. There's a moment, I'm not sure if you can see my face, but when he says, when Petunia says, it's not all green flames and fireballs, and he comes back without missing a beat and is like, yeah, it can't be celebrations and carnivals all the time. And I was just...
I saw your face.
I want to go back and watch my face because...
Yeah.
It was so good.
And I mean, it was even a note because the last time you see him, he goes up in a fireball.
Yeah. He goes up in a fireball at a celebration and a carnival.
Oh, so good.
I even wrote down on paper, I was like, dude, that subtle clue right there. So good. Underline. But was it
that line? I couldn't remember if it was a festival or a carnival, and so I think I said festival or carnivals just to cover my bases because I was like, I don't remember what it was. Oh, it's been so long. Just say both, and maybe it'll be a thing.
You're both you're right on both counts.
Yep.
But
there you go.
Because there's a festival of joy for Lyra, and. Was it nerve-wracking to give up this character a little bit, but also no, because it was a completely different character. And I knew that when it was my time to take over, that, it was going to be me playing the Harlequin and not Ross playing the Harlequin.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, there was
personality is gone.
Yeah, there was no other choice though. I mean, when we were talking, and I initially floated the idea of like, hey, Devin, because I wanted Devin to play. Like, I wanted him to get to play and have fun as a player because I knew I was going to be taking the forefront of writing the story and doing this. And when he was like, it's too obvious. It's like, yes, 100%. I was like, well, who are we going to get? And it's like, without missing a beat, it was like, it's Ross. Like, they're like...
Yeah, hopefully he'll do it.
Yep, I hope he can do it because you were the only choice because you not only did you know the show, not only did you know the character, but we played with you. You're incredible. You're an incredible like role player, and we knew that you can hit the beats, and we knew you were gonna bring it.
Yeah. Also, there wouldn't be any muddying because you haven't made an established character yet or anything like that, which I guess it'll be a kind of a question to both of you. And Ray, you'll take on the consensus of the party at large. But Ross, if you ever wanted to come back and play like a character, you're welcome to the table if you so wish. As long as the players can trust you. How do you feel about that, Ray?
Fool me once, fool me twice.
Oh.
Honestly, I would love a chance to play with Ross again at the table. He was phenomenal. I mean, you sold it. You were fun. Your energy was great. We both played off so well. You were a natural. I didn't. I mean, after a while, I didn't suspect it. Like I had put it out of my mind because I was having so much fun. So. Oh,
that's awesome! Thanks, Ray. It was so great to play with you at the table. Like, it was awesome. Again, like you said, the energy of us feeding off of each other, like all of those beats, the whole evening. you're a phenomenal role player.
Thank you.
Leagues better than I will ever be. But it was great to rise to the occasion, as it were, and to try to match your great play with some good play of my own. So
I appreciate that. Now I want to know if there were, because I know that the festivals and carnivals thing was a clue. I have to know, were there any others that were slipped in there that I missed?
I know there was at least one.
There was one.
I can't remember what was said, but it made me go, "Oh, that's good."
Ross, do you remember what it was?
I slipped a couple in there. The two I remember, one was a meta clue that I slipped in, and I was like, that may have been too on the nose. But when you were reading the list of the ledgers, like there was a D Fletcher, a D Henderson, an R Lee.
That was just funny.
Like,
yeah,
that was just funny. I was just like, oh, I better watch it. And when you're further down the list, I was like, I guess better watch out for that R Lee character. Like that was just a subtle like meta nod that I said sort of under the breath. The mic probably picked it up. I'm not even sure you heard it, Ray, but I was just like,
I probably did. It was probably just like,
yeah, like you're just making fun of yourself.
Yeah.
Yep. So just drop that in there. There was one other in play reference that I remember. That was well, maybe two. The second one was more of, at this point I was fully into Ash. And so that second one was when we went to pick up the envelope and Ash makes the comment, "This doesn't feel good. This feels like, how do you feel about this?" And the idea is that he's trying to allude to, hey, we're being set up. Like it feels totally like we're being set up. The only other one beforehand was I mentioned that this looks like we're dealing with a serial killer at the second body. So I know I dropped a couple others, but some of those were like in the moment, like, ooh, that would be, and I don't remember any of them at this point, any of the other ones.
That's fair. I will have to go back. It happens every time I play a game or go to a LARP. Afterwards, it's just like, what did I do?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Was there any, Dustin, was that the one, either of those the ones that you remember?
I don't think so. There was it was like you said a word and I was just like, oh man. I'll have to watch it back and just really kind of feel like, okay, that was it. More so watch my reaction, because I don't think I'm subtle about it, because I'm pretty sure I went
yeah.
Or try to be subtle. Don't make faces.
Hey, I mean, maybe my passive perception is as good as Petunia's or as bad as Petunia's, because clearly I didn't pick up on any of it.
There's definitely something to say for being behind the screen. Like when you write all the clues out as a DM, sometimes you're just like, why aren't my players like picking up what I'm putting down? And then when you're a player and you have all the clues in front of you, you don't have the bigger picture in your head, so it's hard to see how the web all weaves together and things like that. So yeah.
I did appreciate that you guys didn't give me any information about the case we were working.
Nope.
That I literally got to experience that alongside Ray the entire time.
Yeah, and I that 100% was the plan. I wanted you to be able to be in an investigative, adventure and help, be in that full cop mode and help figure out the crime and solve it. And I didn't want to give you any of those. All you knew was the ending.
Which I think made it more authentic, for sure.
Yeah, totally.
By far,
it helped me.
By landslide.
It helped me worlds, because then I'm not thinking, okay, he already knows all this. I'm sitting there like, nope, I have no idea what's going on. Yeah. So I can fully lean into that.
Yeah,
so.
And I mean, and that goes with how Devin and I, we like to tell stories, is we do not like to give meta knowledge to the player that the character doesn't know, because that reveal of that bleed that happens when a moment comes where you as the player find out at the same time that the character finds out is just 10 times better.
It's the immersion, rather.
Yeah, immersion. Yeah.
One thing I will say about the Harlequin, because of this 2 people playing 1 person thing, he does not have DID, which is dissociative identity disorder. He is obsessive about certain things, but it's more so fully playing into the assassin subclass's abilities, paired with actors' feats and mimicry and all of that kind of stuff. Just so there's no confusion along those lines.
That's a good
does
distinction.
Does not have DID. But the reason we wanted to keep Ross separated is so that he could fully play that false identity.
Yep.
Yeah, and that again, that helped me, did wonders for my ability at the table to do that. So I'm grateful for that for sure.
Yeah, because what's fun playing a game that you know all the answers to?
Yeah.
Completing it to 100%. That's a video game thing.
But it's so good.
Ray, was there anything else that you want to add for this particular jaunt for our viewers? Any other thoughts or anything?
I've got, let's see. I'm curious as to how Dustin and Devin felt. Because they've run stuff for me for years. So I'm curious as to how you guys expected me / Petunia to play along and react, and if those expectations were subverted or met or something in between.
The same goes for when we write for anybody. We're not telling the story, it's collaborative, and like I said earlier, there was a chance for you to not get captured. If Gnarl was there, that would have increased your odds exponentially. Gnarl may have also died if Gnarl was with you, which would have been another heavy blow to the BFGs. But the whole purpose of this was for the Harlequin to get Harold's attention. But as for you as a player, I mean, you played wonderfully.
Yeah, I have told many a story for you, many a tragic story.
Yeah.
But I mean, without it, I mean, I knew even if Ray figured it out, I knew that Petunia would not, or I mean, you know, if Ray figured it out before Petunia figured it out, it wouldn't have come through, just because I know how phenomenal you are at, you know, as an improver and role player.
Thank you.
But I mean, yeah, I don't think it could have gone any better.
Yeah.
It
was almost like it was scripted.
Yeah,
it was so good.
Yeah.
It really was. I wanted to mention this earlier when we were talking more about the ending of the actual betrayal, where I mean, Ash is hugging her and comforting her, and even while facing her, he still manages to literally stab her in the back. And I could almost see the image of him raising the knife as he's making this line, and then just, that's it.
Yep, and I think
it was very, very cinematic.
And as you're fading to black, the telepathic bond, so you know for a fact.
Yep.
That it was him.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was fun.
D&D, folks.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
So good.
There was one thing that I forgot to do, and I can't say what it is because we'll just have to do that reveal later. But I wanted to reveal something else about the Harlequin, but in the moment, it is what it is.
It didn't make sense. Didn't make sense.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and find out.
I wonder if I know what that. I'm dissecting all the lines and trying to. I wonder if it's after the line I think it is.
We'll see.
Only time will tell.
We'll see soon.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Well, on that note, audience, thank you all for tuning in for this very special D4 and After. Thank you, Ray, for taking the time to join us, and thank you, Dustin and Devin, for joining me as well. Thank you, Dustin, for helping me ask questions and co-host tonight. So,
Of course. I thanks for having me as your co-host.
Yeah.
See what I have to deal with every Sunday? It's the worst.
Yeah. On that note, folks, Sunday's coming. We'll see you then. Have a great night.